The New Era, Chapter 34. Subject: Overdrone S655L894T131. Species unknown. Species description: humanoid. Ship: Grand Vessel of the Universal Omni-Union. Location: Grand Shipyard of the Universal Omni-Union. Once the machines were dealt with, we approached the force that we'd been sent to help. 14 Marines peeked out of cover, and 5 of them came to greet us. I nearly did a double-take, because they were holding the security forces' direct energy weapons. "Greetings, Staff Sergeant," Lieutenant Oscar said. "How's the fight going on your end?" I looked back and forth between the aliens, wondering how they could tell each other apart. Neither of their faces were visible, and their armors looked the exact same to me. The only real difference between the two was that Oscar was shorter. "It's certainly going, sir." Staff Sergeant's voice made me freeze. Naza and Forty, who had been acting as my second-in-command, looked at me with alarmed expressions. It seemed that all 3 of us recognized that voice. There were many, many millions of Marines aboard the Grand Vessel, though. Come to think of it, it is entirely possible that their number are in the trillions. I wondered at the odds of both of us being taken by the same Marines. Then my mind boggled as I wondered what the odds were of running into those Marines during a massive assault. "I'm glad things are moving along, at least," Oscar chuckled. "We're here to provide support until your main force arrives. Then we're off to parts unknown to blow up some more bots and save some more aliens once you're on the other side of that gate." "Yes, sir." "Anything you could tell me about the enemy that I don't already know?" "Not much, sir. Only new thing we've learned is that their weapons are pump-action fired." "Pump-action fired?" Oscar tilted his head. "Yes, sir. The laser rifles like a trigger, and you need to pump the foregrip to fire them." "Pump the foregrip? The same way that you'd cycle a shotgun?" Oscar asked, to which the Staff Sergeant nodded. "How, novel. Well, that's certainly information that might become useful if we run out of ammunition. Were you aware of this, Overdrone?" "No," I stammered, not expecting to be included in the conversation. "Interacting with the weaponry without being specifically assigned to do so is, or was, considered a crime punishable by life imprisonment or death. Usually death." "Wait a minute. You look familiar," one of the larger Marines with a familiar voice said. "Aren't you the ones we nabbed?" The rest of the Marines looked at the one who spoke. Without seeing their faces, it was difficult to tell what they were trying to express, but it seemed like a mixture of disbelief and exasperation. Oscar chuckled to himself and stared at me for a moment. "Odie, Sierra 6, did you get got by all catch and release?" Lieutenant asked, still chuckling. "I'm unfamiliar with the phrase, but I'm fairly certain this team of Marines abducted me," I replied, "if that's what you're asking." "Why did they grab you?" "They wanted to get in touch with the rebellion's leadership," I said. Well, Oscar laughed. "Isn't this delightfully awkward?" "Pretty sure we grabbed those 2 as well," the Staff Sergeant added. I glanced at Naza and Forty, who were nearly in shock at the confrontation. Oscar's laughter snapped them out of it, though. Forty's shocked expression turned to anger, but Naza's went back to neutral. "So you grabbed the Overdrone to get in touch with the rebel leaders. But why did you nab those 2? Oscar asked. "They seem to be friends of Sierra 6, but other than that—" "They weren't our intended target," the Staff Sergeant explained. "We wanted information about the anti-grav generators, and Omega found one near a hole. Unfortunately, it was malfunctioning, and these 2 were there to repair it. They saw us. We needed intel and couldn't leave behind any bodies, so we grabbed them." "Hold on there. We've got anti-grav tech now?" "No, sir. We weren't able to provide detailed schematics of the anti-gravity generators," Nazar said. "We don't know how much more than to maintain them."
"They wanted security codes, mostly,"
Forty replied.
"Even threatened to torture me for them."
"Ah, then they meant it." The Marine let out a low whistle. "If they say torture, it's a bluff."
"They said advanced interrogation, but they were very clear that it meant torture."
"When they're careful to say advanced interrogation, it means they're going to have it on record. Must have been some pretty important codes." Before anyone could respond to that revelation, the warp gate behind us made a crackling noise. 2 shuttles had come through the gate and had begun their landing procedures. Some Marines aimed their tubes towards the shuttles. "Hold your fires!" Lieutenant Oscar shouted. "Pretty sure we're going to need those shuttles. Get into cover and hold fire until you have a clear shot at whatever comes out. If it's robots, fire at will. Otherwise, wait for determination." Without another word, Marines both large and extra large took their combat positions. More deployable covers were placed and hidden behind, with rifles peeking out over and around them. I gave orders to my own men to have them take position behind the well-armored aliens and provide support. The 2 shuttles landed, and to no one's surprise, security robots began pouring out of them. The Marines to their flanks fired immediately, but the Marines in front only took careful, well-aimed shots. My drones simply handed out ammunition and such. Earlier, we had been given a glimpse of what professional warfighters are capable of, but that was a full-blown assault with very little need for precision. The Marines had been acting like a demolition spike, but now we were performing a role akin to that of a precision melder. I looked on in awe, wondering how they were avoided aiming at the same targets. They must be equipped with some sort of readout-type assistance program within their helmets, or they're able to read each other's minds. Come to think of it, either explanation also explains how they know each other's ranks. Once the last of the security robots had bullet holes in it, the shuttles began spooling up for takeoff. Before they could go into the air, 2 small groups of Marines rushed forward to the shuttles and entered them. There was a brief exchange of lasers and gunfire, but a moment later the Marines tossed some more robots out of the shuttles. I walked around, making sure that all of my drones were healthy and accounted for. Then Lieutenant Oscar caught my eyes and waved me over. He was once again standing in front of the Marines who'd captured me, and I quickly rushed to join him. "So, fellas," Oscar said, "I was told to protect you until the main force arrive. Just to check, you're not here on your own, right? Where's your chaperone?" "They're right behind us, sir," the staff sergeant said. "Just a few mics out. We've had a whole-ass battle and a skirmish. What's taking them so long?" From what I understood, most of the Vics wouldn't fit in the shuttles, so the majority of the main force is on foot. They're also getting up fobs, so they're going to carry everything. "And here I was hoping for a quick smash and grab," Oscar sighed. "Hard to tell how many lights it's even been. Sierra 6, don't they ever turn the lights off around here? When do you sleep?" It wasn't the first time the lieutenant had used the informal designation for me, but it still caught me off guard. Drones would frequently give each other such designations, but doing so for a Nova drone was considered disrespectful to the hierarchy. On the other hand, rebellion is too. "We sleep when we recharge," I replied. "The light levels in charging bays are lower than the main corridors, but the lights are never completely off. Why would they be?" "To, mimic the light-dark cycle?" Oscar trailed off. "Holy shit. You guys don't have a sun. You don't even get light and dark." "Of course we get light and dark." "That's not what I said, Sierra 6. I said, wait, you don't even have words for light and dark." "I'm sorry, Lieutenant, but you're confusing me," I replied. "The translator is also filling in the word I'm saying for one that you have as pretty close approximation. I'm using a word that describes a period of time in which the sun shines upon the planet's surface, as well as a word that describes the opposite." "Oh, well, we don't have a planet." "Right. How do you tell time?" one of the large Marines asked. "We have periods of rest and periods of work. We cycle between these 2 periods. So we call the period of time including one of each a cycle," I explained. "The mines have a system of measuring time, and they schedule everything for us. Recharging, travel, work, eating. Our readout tells us when we should be doing all of these things." "But what about time-sensitive maintenance? Like, you have to hold a thing onto another thing for a certain amount of time before it does anything." "We'd simply wait for the thing to do what it was supposed to do, or we would use counts. For example, electron detectors require being held to a casing for a minimum of 3 count before reading can be considered accurate. A 5 count is preferred, though, or you risk electrocution." The Marines looked at each other, then back at me. "That's crazy," one of them said. "I mean, my dad's an electrician, and that's pretty much how they do things. It's not like they carry a clock around with them." "But they literally do, though. Do they leave their comms in the truck or something? They don't wear a watch?" "Maybe some do, but my dad doesn't because it can snag on wires when he's grabbing shit. Plus, sometimes you need both hands, so you can't watch the watch. What sort of shit does an electrician need precision timing for anyway?" "He just said, I mean for one of our electricians, shithead. Plus, he was probably talking about a fission or fusion technician." The Marines argued back and forth for a little while, vehemently discussing the merits of accurate timekeeping. Lieutenant Oscar and the staff sergeant and I just watched silently. Eventually, the Marines realized that they were having the discussion in front of their commanders and went silent. "Sorry I asked," Oscar said with more than a little annoyance in his voice. "Anyway, you boys are relieved. We'll take over guarding the gate until the main force gets here. Get some chow, ammo, and rest. Or continue arguing about electricians and clocks." "Aye, sir." "Dismissed." The large Marines walked off, and I was left with Lieutenant Oscar. He sighed and we began walking back towards the combined forces. "Won't be long now," he said. "Are you looking forward to being liberated?" "Yes," I replied. "Yes, I am." End of chapter. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.